Hi, my name's Liam. If you don't know me already, I'm the founder of Pilla, and all day, every day, I help various types of businesses to create operational workflows. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to do a live build of a problem which I found on Reddit, and I think we'll do this every day or certainly every couple of days at least. We'll find problems that people have on the internet, and we'll do some live builds to show you how you can solve that particular problem, but also how you can sort of borrow individual solutions and apply them to different problems as well. So all will become clear. So this is what we're going to tackle today. We've found this problem on Reddit, and I've chosen this one because I think it's a good problem that a lot of businesses with people face. So False East 55 has posted to talk about early signs that an employee is getting ready to leave. So they talk about how you're unsure when somebody's getting ready to leave. They might become quiet, but you don't really have a good sense of that if you're not sort of having these regular conversations and that type of thing. And then before you know it, the resignation comes in, the person's left, and it's a bit of a shock to everybody apart from the person. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create a workflow which is a flight risk check-in. So either a monthly or a quarterly sort of questionnaire, if you like, to an employee, which can be carried out on Pillar, and it will give us a good idea of how the person is feeling about the company, right? So we could start from scratch, but we're going to use the AI to help us build this. It's just much quicker that way. So I'm on the homepage. I'm on our homepage. I'm going to highlight in here, and I'm going to say, build me a workflow which I can send to my employees monthly. It will be used to determine their feelings about the business, their workload, and their general attitude towards work. It will give me a good idea of flight risk for the employee. I think a good way to structure it would be to have some rating scales which ask the employee various things about how they feel about the business. Okay, so I've given it quite a bit of pointers there, but nothing too specific. I've told it generally what I'm looking for in this workflow, right? And it's now going to go ahead and build me a workflow, which I've never seen before. So this is new to both of us. Let's see what it's built. So this is our canvas builder. And this is the really flexible way that you create workflows for people to carry out. So we've got a workflow which runs monthly. Great. Then we've got some rating scales, which is what I asked. I did give it that prompt. So we've got, how do you feel about working here on a scale of 1 to 5? How likely are you to stay? That's quite a leading question, isn't it? But how supported do you feel? How manageable is your workload? How do you feel about your work clothes? Okay. And how motivated do you feel? And then we've got a text input at the end, which is a free text. So obviously we could go in and we could add some new inputs in here. We could add various types of inputs. We could customize this as much as we like. We may not be entirely sort of happy with the way that these are worded. You might want to make them a bit more on brand or a bit more geared towards your culture, which is, perfectly fine and you should do. But this gives us a general idea of what a workflow like this might look like. And if I click on the phone on the right hand side, we've basically got this sort of visual representation. This is what the end user will see. We've got sort of a rating scale so they can kind of add how they're feeling about the different questions. And then we've got anything which is on their mind at the end. Excuse me. So that's a really good starting point, right? This is a nice workflow. We could just send that to an employee if we wanted to monthly, and we'd have some idea, some indication of how they felt about the business. If I wanted to go a step further and I wanted to add some automation to this, There's a couple of things which I would do, which kind of I've got in my mind. So the first one is if I'm a manager, I would want to be alerted each time this run. If this is running monthly, then I wouldn't want to have to remember when it was running and potentially forego a conversation that should have happened, days before. So what I would do is I would go to the end. I would go to the completion step. I would click on this button here. That would give me a Poppy Action AI node. So that is basically a action for the AI to take. And I could have any sort of action. So it depends on what my business runs in its tech stack. We could have a Slack message. We could update a Google Sheet row, however we decide to do this. But let's keep it simple and let's keep the actions within Pilla. So we'll say, Pilla, send me a direct message, meaning me, the author of the automation. And I would say in here, send me a DM with a summary of this workflow. So send me a summary of what the person scored and what they feel about the business. Okay, so straight away, very easily, we've added an automation into this. So that's got an extra step. We now will get a personalized DM from the AI, which can tell us of any issues or any potential issues, any flight risk immediately. If I wanted to go a step further, one of the things I was thinking of was sort of using these rating scales. So a rating scale is a great input type because it's a value, it's data, it's a number. So we could say, for example, if I was to come take a sort of a step off to the right here, I could actually add a decision, so something for the AI to decide, and I could say, did the employee score below 3? Okay, so meaning did they enter 1 or 2 basically? And then if yes, okay, then I could send a message then as well. So I could say, send me a DM with a summary of what the person was asked, who the person is, and what they scored. So what would happen then is when the employee actually entered this number into the rating scale, the AI would check it. And if it was below 3, it would carry this out because we've added it to the yes node. So that would basically mean I would be if I was the manager, I would be instantly alerted to a low score. So that's another way. So we could have a summary of the whole workflow, or we could have this kind of alert to a low number, which is, I guess, quite a good alert of flight risk. Now, the other thing I was thinking was, it might be the case that a certain employee always scores 1 or 2. I mean, that just may be generally the way they feel. In which case, a 1 or a 2 on each month wouldn't necessarily be a flight risk. It's kind of just the way they always feel, which is not great, and we should try to improve it. But one extra thing we could do, we could add a slightly more complexity and detail if we want to. So we could get rid of that, and we could say, did the employee score below 3? If yes, add a briefing, which is where Poppy the AI goes and gets more information. Right? We could say, find out all the other scores in the last 12 months that the employee has entered for this particular question or a question like it. Okay. Then we can have another decision to say, is the score entered in this workflow lower than the usual score entered? And then if it's a yes, that's when we could have the direct message. Send me a direct message with a summary of what the employee said. So we're just adding one extra kind of layer of decision making in here. So it's, did they enter below 3? Is that lower than usual? And If so, then message me. Okay, so it's kind of just an extra layer, but you can kind of go as detailed as you want with this. But I'll leave it here. I think this is a pretty good way. Although we could change the wording of the questions, this is a pretty good way for us to ask and check in with our staff. How do they feel about the company? And then, as a manager, we can also get alerted when something needs to be taken further. Conversation needs to happen or something like that.